And thought is creative, and it's created by a word, and it's thought in the mind first, and then acted out in the present. So,
welcome back to Abundant Culture Podcast,
where we dissect the mindsets and tactics of the true beasts of business.
People like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and Warren Buffett,
all to create a blueprint to experience life more abundantly.
Hey everybody, it's Joseph here. Welcome back to the Abundant Culture Podcast. We're so glad to have you back again this week. Today's guest is an internationally published photographer. He's been recognized by NBC as Martin Luther King's Man of Distinction. His work has been featured on the cover of Ebony Magazine, and his entertainment photography has led him to work with Motown Records and many other reputable brands, as well as Chicago's own Black Ink Crew on VH1. Today, we're going to be talking about how to foster relationships that help you land high-paying clientele and the importance of art, creativity, and attention to detail in business. So get ready to listen to and learn from our good friend, Jason McCoy.
So, hi, Jason, and thank you again for coming onto the Abundant Culture Podcast. We are so excited to have you because, as I was telling you, I love your work that I've been seeing on social media. So, before we get into, all the intricacies of your business, tell us your story. How did you get into business and why?
So, initially, I started working in music management. Before music management, I had a corporate job in sales, working at an IT company, doing sales full time. And while I was working there, I took on music management, and I was working with different groups in Chicago. And what happened was, while I was working with these different groups, I started doing graphic design. And we started doing graphic design, creating graphics for people and for my clients. And that became a larger business. And while creating the graphics, I realized the easiest way to create a graphic is have a great photo. Unfortunately, most people at this time, and this is going back more than 10 years ago, in Chicago, unless you were a major gospel artist or major artist in general, you did not have any professional photos. And I'm talking about high quality, high resolution professional photos. So I said, that is what we need to make the photos look better. So then I used to try to source photographers around the city. And, sometimes I didn't get what I wanted, or it was just too difficult to do scheduling. So then I started sending clients to Atlanta and to New York. And then I'm like, okay, so then people start talking about budgets. I'm like, so I was like, okay. So I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and learn myself. And I started that journey of learning myself and attending workshops. And I would go to a workshop, I would come back to Chicago, and I would apply it, work, and kept doing the same thing over. And my clients became, many of them were my test dummies. And I don't want to call them dummies, but they were tests. And they allowed me to experiment, to work, and build my craft during that time while I was building my business. And therefore, that's how I got to where I am at now. I just kept shooting. Then what I ended up doing later on, I said, you know what, let's drop the graphic design. So I stopped doing graphic design, and I became a full-time photographer, strictly photography. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
So a couple questions that I kind of had just from that story that you kind of gave me. So it seems like you always been super creative, growing up? Because it sounds like you were music manager first, and then you went into graphic design and then photography. So that all sounds very creative. Has that always been a creative streak that you had, or is it something that you developed over time?
I wasn't doing photography, but I've always been a creative. I've always wanted to experiment. So I was always on computers. Before computers, there was a time where I actually tried to cut hair, actually do hair. That was one time. And then I've played so many instruments. I played saxophone, bass, and I'm talking about the up tall string bass.
Nice.
Cello, trumpet. What else I played? Percussion, piano. I played everything, and then I played the organ for a church for 15 years in Chicago. Most people don't have a clue unless you know me personally. Played for 15 years. So yeah, I've been an artist for as long as I started, as a child.
That's excellent.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So do you think your parents also helped your creative journey along the way, since you said that you were in music?
My mother, specifically my mother, was a strong pusher of me doing whatever I want to do. People would look at her like, you're spoiling this child. This boy is going to be crazy. He don't know what to do. He's a mama baby. He ain't going to. And she was like, well, I don't care. Whatever he want to do, I'll find the money for him to do it. So, I mean, I've learned how to fix cars when I was in high school because she took me to a class. I was in computer classes. I was in karate, taekwondo. Well, I mean, I did ice skating. I did baseball. I've done everything. And my mom just threw me into whatever you want to do, just do it. I did motorcycle racing, like as a kid.
That's crazy.
Yeah. My mom she said, whatever you want to do it. And my mom was a huge pusher of me expressing myself no matter what. And she went against what everyone said. Everyone was like, you're spending too much money on him. He's not sticking with anything. And what happens is what people and parents need to know that you need to let your children experiment and try as much as they can while they're younger, because they will eventually stick to something. What I did eventually stick to after all of those instruments, I literally played over 7 instruments. I ended up sticking to the piano and the organ, and that's what paid for my expenses while I was in college. So that made sense. And people, as children, parents don't understand that, to let the kids learn stuff because they'll find something they'll stick with, and that's going to provide for them. And you don't have to provide during that time. My mother and them didn't have to pay for my food and regular stuff. I had a job playing the organ for the church. So, yeah.
That's excellent. And I think that's a great piece of advice too. Like, we don't talk about parenting, I feel like, as much as we should on the podcast that we do. But I think that's a great tool for anybody, really, because you never know. You could be raising an entrepreneur, and if you don't really invest in them and allow them to have those experiences to know what they like and don't like, you may be hindering them in the long run. Because, what if somebody, they have this ability to cook really well, but you never pay for, cooking classes. So it's like they don't notice that until they're like, 40, 50. And by that time, they have all these other obligations. So I think that's a perfect piece of advice.
And the experimenting component too, like how your mom just lets you do thing after thing. And she wasn't like, nah, you sticking to this. You gonna play this instrument. I paid money for this.
I still have instruments. I literally just came back from home. I have instruments, like literally, she always like, so when you gonna get that guitar and play it? I'm like, I'm never gonna play that guitar no more. It's sitting in a closet. She still got my instruments at home.
Wow.
She didn't give away, so I still have right now, as we speak, I have a lead guitar at home, a snare drum, and a saxophone currently. That is at home. But I've always been an entrepreneur, and I didn't even know to call it an entrepreneur at that time. But I was selling candy in middle school. Like, I was selling so much candy. I was doing so well that they shut it down. They literally put out a hunt for me because I was like, don't tell nobody I'm selling the candy. Whatever. Don't tell nobody buy your bags.
Wow.
And that all happened was we had, that's a funny story. And I've never told this. My mother ended up buying a big, 2 or 3 big boxes of candy. And it was for something for the church or whatever. And whatever, the event didn't happen or something canceled. And she was like, I'm stuck with all this candy. And I was like, okay. And I don't know, just randomly, I don't even know how I came with the idea. I just said, I'm going to start putting it in bags and start selling them for $1. And I became the candy man at Columbia in middle school. So everybody would meet me in the morning. My mom would drive me. We'll be in a flatbed truck. The bags are already pre-packed. When she pull up and I'm in the back of the truck, she pull up. Everybody come to the back of the truck and give me $1, boom, boom, boom. I did all that before school every single day.
That's great.
I started taking away from all the money from the lunchroom. And it was this thing for basketball. They used to always sell candy. I started taking so much money away that they literally hunted me down, threatened to suspend me and everything. They had to shut the whole thing down. So yeah, early on. So yeah.
That's crazy. That's a story.
Right.
That's real entrepreneurship right there, for sure.
You had haters even back in the day.
Yeah. And it was the teachers. They did not like it. It was like they was making all types of things. Like, you know what? By him selling candy, they bring candy into the classrooms and they eating during class. I'm like, they already buying candy in the vending machines.
Right.
So,
they just getting it from somewhere.
Huh?
I said they were getting it from somewhere else.
Listen, early on, I learned about regulations.
Right. Absolutely. So since you've been creative for, pretty much as long as since you've been a kid, basically, do you consider art and business to be related to each other? And if so, how?
oh gosh, art and business is so related. I mean, I love colors, I love beauty, and I think most people do. If you look at the background, there's art pieces up there now. I have art. There's art, a big old art piece right here in front of me. Art is related to business because what happens is you buy stuff because you are enticed. You saw it. You saw either the work of someone, you saw the beauty of something. Like there's a reason why Starbucks stays in business, and it's not always just about the coffee, because a lot of people don't even like Starbucks coffee, but they go for the environment, they go for the feeling, and that same thing with stores. You go into the store and you're able to charge different price ranges because of how well they invested in the store. Beauty, art matters. Look at Apple. Apple is a prime example of how they took art and connected it with technology and allowed it to be so beautiful that you want a PC. So art and business always matters. Looks always matter. We are an aesthetic type of society. From social media, it's even if, and I even consider the body and the face art. There's people who are so gorgeous, or they put paint on, or makeup. They put makeup on. It creates art. So yeah, art is important, and beautiful things help sell products and services.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah. And it's crazy because that's something that I've been learning like this entire year, because I feel like everybody is creative, but I feel like not everybody knows that they are creative. Like they haven't had the same experimentation that you have. And I was just one of those people that like, I was always really good at like math and science and stuff like that, but I never thought I was like creative. So when I started really running my business, I was thinking about all of these different things that I had to now implement in order to make something look good or sound good. And it wasn't really a strong suit of mine until I actually started trying it and like just like dabbling in it and kind of researching it a little bit. And then I'm like, oh, like business is creative.
Yes.
And I never knew that until like really this year. And it's something that has really helped grow my business this year. And that's something that I really wanted to touch on, because I feel like a lot of people think that business is just numbers and, you know, revenue and profit and customers and different things of like that nature. But I think sometimes they forget the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, it's the beauty, the aesthetics, and, you know, really the those outward components of your product that really gets it off the shelf. So I really do appreciate that piece of advice.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I mean, just creativity. So we talked about art and business, the importance of aesthetics and beauty, color, all that stuff. Because number one, colors create emotions. They trigger emotions. Sounds, smells, they all trigger stuff. When you come into my studio, there's a certain smell that's in there. Like it's literally that deep. There's certain smell. There's certain colors on purpose. There's certain placement of things on purpose. It's because to give a whole feeling and a whole experience when my clients come into my studio. So it's important. But as for creativity, when it comes to business, creativity is what leads you to business. You can't have business without creativity.
Yeah.
And I say that because what happens is how everything started was by a thought. And thought is creative, and it's created by a word, and it starts in the mind first and then acted out in the present. So, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think your background in sales has any effect on your business and your art and the way that you do things currently now?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. My last corporate job, which was 2009, my last corporate job taught me a ton, taught me a lot. That was my first time really doing sales. And I did excel at it once they taught me what to do. I've always did customer service, but never the sales component. And my job prepared me for sales and rejection. And so when I tell people, even when I teach my classes, I'm telling people, oh, you need to email them again, email them again, email them again. They're like, I don't want to bother nobody. You know, you're not bothering them. You're not bothering them until they say, please do not email me or call me again. That's what I consider myself bothered. But yeah, so we learned that, the follow-up. We learned that when I was working at CDW, well, that's where I worked at. When I worked at CDW, we had to make 60 to 100 phone calls a day, a single day, So, and you don't leave until those calls are made. So, and you have to send out all these different touch points, emails, white papers. We had to do all that. So yeah, me being in sales taught me a lot. And it taught me how if you keep marketing, if you stay in the game, you stay at it, those sales will eventually come. I had a client there who didn't buy anything for a full year. And actually, he didn't buy anything for 2 or 3 years. And the people gave up on him. Someone gave me the account. They said the account has potential, but he hasn't bought anything. He don't like talking on the phone. I just started being the man friend, and I just started calling. And it started becoming funny because I started calling him every day, like, hey, his name Bill or Jim or something like that. And I was like, hey, Jim, it's Jason. What's going on? Oh, you're calling again. I'm like, yeah, I'm just checking to see how's it going. He lives in like, matter of fact, I think it was like Florida. So I'm like, how's the weather there? So I just kept doing it every day. And it started becoming funny because he's just like, dude, and then we end up starting talking. And I don't know how long, it was maybe 6 months after that. We sort of almost created a friendship, an online friendship or a phone friendship. And out of nowhere, he got a huge government contract. And I think that was my first sale for $500,000. Just off of friendship and staying in touch with somebody. When that sale comes through, when that opportunity comes through, they always go to who's top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
for sure.
And I think that the visual aids behind that. So what you do now helps people even more for you to stay like top of mind. Like people will always remember like how something made them feel. Who said that? Maya Angelou, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Maya Angelou.
People said it. I done heard about 3, 4 different people. I'm like, I don't know who made this quote, but they may not forget. Oh gosh,
they may not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's
sure.
it. Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Definitely.
So do you have like a creative process? Like, do you have kind of like a little ritual that you put yourself through to, get into that creative mind, or not really?
To be in a creative mind, really what I do when I'm stuck or I feel like I need to go in the other direction is really getting out. I get out of these 4 walls or the 4 walls of my studio, and I either travel or I go to museums. I go to areas of Chicago that I love. I learn a lot by going out to eat. I mean, I know it sounds beneficial just for me, but it's really beneficial for my clients. I love going to different restaurants. I love seeing how they service the clients. I love seeing what new technology they use. I was just at Uncle Julio's 3 days ago, and with a friend, and when they brought the bill, they brought it in a thing sort of shaped like this with a flap over it. Mm-hmm. So bottom line is you check your own self out. Like you just use your own credit card and you can split it with whoever's there or how many people, and you can check your own self out. But the thing is, it was just more like this. So it was like this, and then they would open it, and this is where your credit card and stuff would be at. What was cool about that was the fact that he would say, here, place this on the desk. Whenever you're ready, no rush. That was amazing customer service. So that means I could sit here as long as I want. There was no rush. I never had to worry about him. I never had to hunt him down. So I said, wow, this would be great. So when you don't want to have that money talk, you just take this and give it to them at the end of the service. Place that right here, just whenever you're ready before you leave. Boom. And now you can go to your computer, do whatever, let them get dressed, and they can do, for me and what I do, let them get dressed. They can take care of that whenever they are. There's no awkward moments. There's no they trying to fumble through credit cards, trying to remember their zip code, all that stuff. Just let them handle it on themselves. So just like that, going out to eat, traveling, walking around areas of Chicago is how I get my creative process going.
Okay. I like that.
So it sounds like really you draw inspiration from basically going to new places, seeing things that are unfamiliar, and just really just paying attention to those little details to see how you can become a better artist and better entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Go to places that you admire. I mean, I'll go to very high-end spas, hotels. I'll just go to the hotel just to have a meal, but you have to enter the hotel and whatever you got, and you get to see how they place the furniture. What's the smell like? When I go to the Waldorf Astoria, there's a smell in the building. There's a certain flowers. There's a certain way everything is placed. There's a way they speak to you. It's all in the experience. Now I might be only going there for a $5 croissant, but I got to experience all of that just to get that croissant. I got to get my coffee on a nice platter, beautifully placed in a beautiful area. And I get to look around and see how they do things. I mean, it's important. Yeah. So being aware of your surroundings and how people conduct business and do business is very important.
Yeah. And it's really all in the details too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I've been learning. Like, details matter a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it allows you to scale your pricing when you can pay attention to detail. What happens is anybody almost can be mediocre, but to be excellent requires attention to detail, requires timeliness, requires persistence. It requires a lot to be excellent, and only at excellent is where you can get the top dollar amount in any field you're in.
For sure.
Absolutely. So when you get a client, they're like, I want to work with you. They, start paying you, you go through that whole process and you're setting up the studio for them. You're telling them like what they should wear, or you have like people for that. How do you get all of that together? Like, what kind of things do you look for, I guess, in the person when you're putting together like the photo shoot experience for
That's
them?
a good question.
I think for me, the first thing I do is I can't do all that. I can't just have you come in without a phone call. Before you can even book with me, you have to do a phone call with me. And we changed that recently, well, over a while ago now, but that has been, a lot of times people are like, what's the rate for this? What's the price for this? And I can't give you, you got to call me. Like, this is not how we do here. This is not McDonald's. This is not Sears. This is a totally different situation. So if you'd like to book with us, here's a schedule. Go ahead. And just like you guys had a great scheduling system, you have a schedule, a phone call with me. And then we talk about your needs. We talk about, am I the right photographer for you? And we talk about what we're going to do to take your brand to the next level or to help you accomplish your goals. And then I create a treatment plan, AKA pricing or quote for you that I can send to you that we tailored specifically just for you. So yeah, there's no cookie cutter here.
Yeah. And what do you mean by if figuring out if you're the right photographer for them? Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I'm always really fascinated by, having the ideal client for whatever it is that you're doing.
What happens is a lot of times, for example, in photography, someone will go on Facebook and say, hey, I'm looking for a photographer. And they just tag a whole bunch of photographers, blah, blah. And then if they see my name a lot or see somebody else's name a lot, they're going to call that person. Mm-hmm. So then I get on the phone with them. And before I just randomly just send out some rates or whatever, I'm like, hey, I'm Jason. Great to meet you, blah, blah. So tell me a little bit more about what you're looking to do. They're like, oh, I'm looking for a photographer for my 2020 wedding. I'm like, wedding? I don't even handle weddings. I'm so sorry. So yeah, so we would have did all of that. We would have had the email back, and it would have been a waste of time. I was like, you know what? I can refer you to someone. And I referred them to someone in my network that I know can service them well. And they don't forget that because they'll still come back to me when it's time for them to do headshots, or they pastor need a photo, or the executive friend needs something. It's like, listen, he don't do weddings, but he do amazing portrait work and professional CEO work and they will send those people right back to me. So having that phone conversation versus if I just blew them off on email like, hey, I don't do weddings, take care. That's the end. I killed a whole relationship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just having that conversation opens the relationship and start like they talked to me. They found out I wasn't the right person. I referred them to someone else and said, when you have any of these other needs, I'm here for you. So
for sure.
That's how it's done. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think you do a really good job with like the relationship building aspect. Because like before you were talking about like the follow-up, and now you're talking about actually like giving somebody the time of day, even if you know that they aren't like what they need or what you need. So yeah, I think you do like a really good job with like building the relationship up, because you never know like where that can lead.
Yeah.
And you will find out people who are not serious about what they're inquiring with me for, or even with you guys' business. Like when people are not serious, they're not going to take the time to schedule a phone call. Like that, because that's an investment on their end. It's no investment if they just ask me for rates and I send it. There was no investment in that part. The investment is when you have to schedule a call with me and then you have to stick to your call. You have to stick to that on your calendar. Mm-hmm. Now we're equally invested. And then you wait for my phone call or you be available that day. You're invested in this whole situation. Whenever I don't it's the easiest thing. It's a free phone call, which normally it's very hard to get in touch with me like that, to be honest. So when I'm letting you schedule a call and you don't show up for that, or you never even write back, I just knew you wasn't the right client anyway. It was no need to continue on because you weren't the right client.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that too, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they first get started, even though I'm pretty sure you're a veteran, when I got started, I know it was before I had experience, I was chasing clients.
Mhm.
And I think there was this guy named Orrin Clough. He wrote a book, and he was saying how people run away from things that chase them, even if it's a good thing for them. So the fact that like you take the time to have the customer invest their time, and then you invest your time before, you know, any real transaction really takes place. I think that's really good for young entrepreneurs to take into consideration. Like, hey, you know, I know you're trying to, you know, make money and grow your business and stuff like that, but make sure that your clients are willing to invest time, because if they can't invest like, you know, 10 minutes for a phone call, they definitely won't invest hundreds or thousands of dollars with you, you know, when it comes time to actually have that talk about, you know, the money. So
Absolutely, 100%.
yeah, for sure. So another question I was really curious about. So you were in corporate America, I think you said 2009.
I left
Right.
here. That's my last year there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always wonder for most of our guests, but I hardly ever ask anybody, um, how did you make the transition? Because I always hear that, you know, there's some people that like, you know, one day they just get fed up and like, I quit, I'm out of here, I'm gonna go start my company. And then literally that day they have to start their company. And then there's others who, you know, they have it structured as a side hustle until they get a certain amount of success and then they leave. How did you kind of make that transition from, you know, corporate sales into, you know, full-time entrepreneurship really?
Mine was sort of structured as a sort of like a side hustle at first, initially while I was working in corporate America. I did save money. So I did save up some money because I did know once I decided that I was going to go out on my own, I saved up some money and put a few things in place, like business stuff in place. And then I wrote the letter, you know, and I know in a sales job, you don't get to give a 2-week notice. Once you give the notice, you are immediately escorted out within the hour. So yeah, it's cutthroat in corporate America and sales.
They don't
They
play.
they don't want you taking time to like gather up. And number one, I know that, so I already gathered all the information I wanted and examples and all the other stuff. I already did that, but I know how it works. So
Right.
you know, I wrote my letter, and actually I really got like an additional 2 months of extra time there because my manager ended up getting sick. He had like a really bad stomach virus for 2 months.
That's crazy.
So I could never even turn the letter in. The letter sat in my desk for over 2 months. And because of what was going on, it was just like 2 months of preparing and working on my business only because I was trying to give him the letter. We couldn't give it. And it was a whole bunch of structural changes. And our department was in just disarray at the moment. So we didn't have even a lot of work outside of just following up with our clients. So it was really 2 months of prep time of additional pay. But yeah, I gave him a letter, and I gave him a letter, and he's like, "Are you sure?" Because number one, let me just preface this: I didn't hate my corporate job. Let me put that out there. I loved CDW. I loved the job, and I was the highest ranking salesperson in my length of service for the year of 2008. So over millions of dollars that I made for the company. So what happened, the only reason why I ended up even entertaining leaving was because in 2009, at the time when I was working there, we could work with all businesses as long as they had 99 employees or less. What happened, they changed it to where now I only could work with certain businesses, so they couldn't be a financial business. It couldn't be a government business. So bottom line, they took out my top 20%. If you know Pareto's law, your top 20% is what pretty much makes up the money for the other 80%.
Yeah.
My top 20% were gone, which were my top big 5 clients who I've worked on, built those relationships that paid the real money. They took those away, and it was like starting over again. And I put my time in, and there was no way I was gonna go back to making 100 phone calls a day for them when I already did what I was supposed to do. So I said, if I'm going to make 100 phone calls for anybody, I'd rather do it for myself. So that was the whole decision. But I loved the job, so yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
so. When you did make that leap, were any of like your clients there? Did they become clients in your new business, in your photography business, or how did that look for you like at the beginning?
So well, my jobs were, IT, and what I did and what I do now is totally opposite. But the funny thing is, I did just get an email yesterday from a client in DC who said, "We have just put you in our budget for photography." Like some of my core clients I stayed in contact with because we built a friendship, you know what I'm saying? And a relationship. So she literally just sent me an email, Facebook message 2-3 days ago saying, "We haven't put you in a budget to do all our corporate photos, and we're going to come to Chicago." And I'm looking like, okay, but they are, and I know how true they are because I was in DC 2-3 years ago, and I just put I'm coming to DC. It's like we have never met in person, but we've always talked on the phone. They came and picked me up from the airport, took me out, like it was a whole thing. So you can build real, true relationships. And they came to CDW from my other employer before them, so they had stuck with me the whole time. Wow. Yeah, and I don't know, they just took a liking to me and I took a liking to them. But yes, there's some people where I build those real strong rooted relationships. But yeah, I think I went all over with that, but yeah.
No, you're good.
It all looped around. It all connects to the same thing.
Yeah. So what are some some advice that you could offer to younger entrepreneurs about building those relationships? Because like I tell people all the time, even in my business, which is kind of a financial business, is like money comes from other people. So if you don't have other people, you're probably not going to make much money. So what is your take and like some of the advice that you would give to somebody who's starting a business on building relationships and maintaining those?
Yeah, I love even what you said because, sometimes people be praying for blessings. I'm like, your blessings is in their pocket. Like your water bill is in somebody's pocket.
I love it.
You up here trying to, Lord, drop some money from the sky. No, he gave you ability, skills, wit, creativity. Because your bill, your car, whatever you want is in somebody's pocket, in somebody's bank. So that your blessing is through other people. So every time, and I want to go into that, but every time I want to say myself, anytime God's going to bless you on the earth realm, it's going to come through a human being. Every single time. Yeah, you think now they may not want to give you the money, it may be obligated, but somebody has the right. If it's come financial, somebody got to give you a check, somebody got to give you money, some institution got to apply credit. It's going to come through a person. There's a person going to be attached to that, anything that's on the earth realm. But anyway, for anyone that is building relationships, I actually wrote a small little booklet about that, and unfortunately I can't think. It's like 5 steps to 6-figure clients, and it's pretty much talk about networking and how do you build those relationships. It's about being true to who you are. I'm a church boy and I started off a church boy, but I'm not overly church and I'm not overly religious, but I do have a connection and relationship with God. So I don't try to hide that because when I used to try to hide that, no matter what, it still came out. So I was like, you know what? That's me. But also I'm not a perfect person and I love to have fun and all that stuff, but I had to start being true to myself. And when I started being true to myself, I was able to build genuine relationships. But how do you build relationships? It's by being active. I do go out a lot. So go out, be active in your community, be active in your church, go help out some people, do some what is called public service work. That is how you build network, and then go talk to people. That's how you build a relationship, and then stay in touch. So go somewhere, meet somebody, stay in touch. I ain't got to meet when I go to a networking event or go to anything, like my friends know me, they're like, Jason, I ain't even gonna waste time talking to everybody. I mean, I'm like, hey, how you doing? But most times I'm like, I'm scanning the room, I'm like, I've been trying to get in touch with this person for like 3 months or 6 months or whatever. I'm going to catch them. And I go straight to them. I mean, I plan my whole moves to connect with them, to get the phone number. And that's how I do. So I'm a pointer. I don't spray the room. One of my clients, I finally saw them in Target. I know it was so I was like, I've been trying to reach out to this person for, not years, for months. And they have such a huge social media following that they would never see me. I tried to go on the lives. They didn't see me. Of course, they didn't reply to DMs, hit the publicist up. And one day they was walking in and Target off Roosevelt. Oh, well, you guys not in Chicago, but it was in Target.
Oh, and, we know.
Oh, yeah. So I'm in the detergent aisle, and I'm like, I saw somebody walk by with all this jewelry, but I'm like, I know this ain't who I think this is. I'm like, let me go out here. I said, God, if they walk past here, I know it's for me. I would do whatever. I'm going to say whatever. I guess they end up walking past that detergent aisle again. I said, hey, excuse me, sorry, I'm sorry. And then, they look at me because, when you approach someone who's well known, they be like, okay, hold on, calm down. This is about to be attack. I'm like, no, I'm Jason. Look, I'm Jason McCoy, and I introduce myself. I have always followed your work, and I would love to work with you. I've actually sent you some DMs, and I would literally put out there, like, I sent you some DMs. I know you probably didn't see them. They was like, oh, for real? I'm like, but look, take a look. I did the whole thing. Take a look at my work, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is, I don't know how, was it maybe a month from that time? I stayed in touch. Because I said, make sure, can you just reply to my DM? Because if they reply to it that one time while I'm there, then I'm in their regular inbox versus in that other section where
in the request part.
Yeah. So you want to make sure you get into that regularly so you at least see it. He did that, and then I went on my life like, oh, let me know, blah blah. And it was like, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks from that day, and he needed something within the same day or 24 hours. He said, hey, they put the label on the phone with me and blah blah. And it was like this wasn't no church stuff. This was like secular, I'll put it that way. And they called me and they was like, hey, we need something done. Can you do this within 24 hours? I'm like, yeah, if you can get to the studio tonight, we can do it. Boom, opportunity. And then that's what started the relationship right there. So yeah, I target who I want to connect with. And it's a strong effort to do that. So yeah.
And I think one of the key points that I like that you just touched on was how specific you are in who you want to network with and how you want to network with them. Because I remember our first year getting into business, we were like talking to anybody and everybody about everything. We were going to like 3 to 4 networking events per week on a minimum. Oh. Usually it was more than that.
We'll be at like 2 or 3 in one day. Like,
yeah. And I remember like, it was just so much work. And we did, it was kind of like a numbers game. We did find good people out of that. But today it's so different now because, we go to one networking event, usually a week at the most now. And the last one we went to, it was so crazy. Like, it was like God knew exactly who he wanted me to talk to there, because I think I only ended up talking to 3 people. Yeah. But like literally I have a meeting with one of those people because they want to partner on some things. And it was like our abilities were just so synergistic. Yeah. And the other person, his wife actually does something that's related to the industry that we want to get into. And it's like, I couldn't plan that. I couldn't really make that up. And like, we were at the networking event and we were so used to like, just, we're talking to everybody. We were like, I think one of us said, we should talk to more people. And then another one of us was like, I can't remember who said what, but I was like, I think maybe it was me or her. I don't know. But one of us was like, you know what? Nah, I don't think so. We're going to see. We're going to see like who, like being strategic about it. And I think that's a word for a lot of newer entrepreneurs. Like, yeah, you can be that person who hits up, 100, 200 people or whatever the case may be. But kind of like you said, it's that 20% that's really going to pay off. And I believe in really being strategic and trying to acquire that 20%.
Yes.
And also fostering a relationship between you and them. And that was golden, because a lot of people are veterans in business and they're still hitting everybody up as opposed to being strategic about who they want to talk to.
And you're well prepared.
Well prepared as well.
That's it. Hey, that's it. Listen, that is a big part. Being well prepared or being able to research in the moment. If you guys ever watched how the Devil Wears Prada, and when she has the assistants, and she's like, okay, this guy's coming. Who's that coming? Who's that? And they up there looking on their phone, trying to look through their notes. Literally, when I see somebody, sometimes I may not know the name. Like, I know that face. They were on this magazine or blah blah. I'm like, I'm on this phone like blah blah. Oh, that's blah blah. And then I'm Googling. I'm like, okay. I'm with the Facebook. I'm like, hey, how you doing, Jason? Hey, I know you. Blah, blah. I saw you just did blah blah. It's a whole conversation because I know something about them. So when the next time you go into the East Bank Club or whatever, or I've been trying to be part of this organization. I know you got to have a little bit of something to talk about. Like, I mean, you can do code, the networking code thing, but I mean, when it's someone that has potential, spend a little bit of time. So it's better if you can research, like she said, if you can research ahead of time. But then it's nothing wrong with pulling out your phone right in that moment and research and go to the bathroom and pull up all you can do before you get to that person and introduce yourself. So it ain't so cold.
Yeah, definitely. I follow this woman on Instagram. Her name is Myleek, and she talks about that a lot. Like, she is all about like researching people, and she has a podcast. She doesn't do a lot of interviews. However, she talks about researching people and being well prepared in like anything that she does. And we've also like Brian Rose, his London Real podcast. He's always like super well prepared too. And along the way, like, I think maybe a couple months ago, we've only had the podcast since February. So like a couple months ago, we started really like looking at who our guests were and researching them a little bit more. So the questions were better.
Yeah.
And that helps so much. Like before we got on this call, like we didn't have an intro call with you. So we're like, man, like what should we ask him? So we're on your website, we're on your Instagram, like Google. I'm like, here, read his bio so we know at least a little bit what to ask him.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's helped so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a supporter of those who do research, because I mean, just like when, and I, even myself, I get a lot of DMs and stuff. And sometimes I go through and check them, and then I'm like, okay, just a hi will not get you nowhere with me. I mean, just hi. Like, is there anything else after that? Like, hi. What? Okay, so you want me to write back hi? Just, I don't have the time to do that.
Right.
Like, I was excited when you replied, because I'm like, okay, he has a lot of followers, so he might not even reply. So when you replied, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, but when you put some type of substance in, again, it's all about effort. Put effort forth first before you expect effort. And that's why I tell definitely, some of the younger ones and my interns, you have to put forth effort first, and before you can expect someone to do anything, give you anything, like put some effort in first. So that's the biggest point of all that stuff. No matter what kind of networking you do, put the effort in first.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So a question before we start wrapping it up that I had is, how did you grow your business? Because you have like tons of followers on Instagram. We see that you made like some huge hits in like the PR area. So how did you do all that?
How did I do it? It's really back to everything. Literally everything that I said is how my whole business grew. It was the networking. It was, I mean, when I was a little younger, I was out a lot. I was out a lot on the scene. Mm-hmm. And when you're such a familiar face, what happens is people, when they hear your name, they're like, oh, I see him all the time. I'll work with him. So I was always on the scene. I made sure I stayed in good company with good people. I had great mentors who would school me on the game of stuff, and from pricing to who to talk to, who to network with, what events to be with. Some events where I couldn't get in the room, they allowed me to get in the room. So sometimes you need that sponsor to help you get in the room. And that's what I do for my interns currently. Like I have my current intern, or one of my interns, he just wrote me a whole message. He's covered two really big major, actually three, one a historical event like around the world historic, and then two other major events. But he's from Alabama. Mm-hmm. Like he didn't know nobody up here. And he reached out, put like a lot of effort in his reaching out. Because I literally did, actually the first 3 messages, I was like, okay. And he was so persistent. And I was like, okay, meet me at my studio, let's talk. And he ended up helping out and providing tons of value. And then I said, you know what? You're someone that I can pour into. And bottom line, introduced him to, he didn't have no clients here. I introduced him to about good 3 major clients. Mm-hmm. And he's been floating off of them since he done got here. And I know he's doing good now, because he's like, when they start sending you all these thank you letters and thank you messages and happy birthday and Merry Christmas, that's how you know the interns are doing good. Uh-huh.
It makes money.
You show up at high events. I was at an event. How much was the tickets? I think it was $200 a ticket. And it was one of my clients, and he was in the room doing video work. And I said, he's like, hey, he was excited. But that was because of the relationship that I introduced him to, and they've been using him ever since then. So yeah, mentorship is important, but not just saying, hey, can you be my mentor? But literally investing time to work with somebody, maybe offering free services to somebody, because you only need one referral or one connection to get into the room. That's all you need. And once you get into the right room and that introduction goes around, within time, everybody will pop. Like there was people I used to, when I was younger, used to offer free photo shoots. I'm like, hey, just shoot with me so I can, use it for promotion. And they didn't respond back, blah, blah. Now you call me. You definitely about to get this invoice.
Right.
Like, I didn't even get the time.
Price.
Right, exactly. So now it's the funny thing is like so many people that I would have offered shoots to for free years ago. Well, now they pay. But yeah, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you could have been shooting me for free back then. But so what happens is people want to see that you're a proven test ground, that you're reliable, trustworthy, and that they can depend on you to produce excellent results. And when you wait a long time for that, instead of jumping and trusting earlier kids earlier on, then you pay the price later on, which is what they're doing now. But that's why also I never neglect young talent. I try to keep young talent around me, try to invest in them, try to see what they're doing, because you just never know. Just like my mentor invested in me when I was just like trying to figure this all out. And she was in the PR field. She wasn't in photography. She was in PR field. And she just took me on. And I didn't even know what I'm doing. I just know I was willing to work. And she just, go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that. I was working in senior citizen buildings. I was doing all type of stuff. And she saw something in me just randomly. And that's how we need to be for others. We need to, when we see someone in somebody, like I saw, and this is my intern from Alabama, when I saw something in him, I said, okay, I want to throw some stuff at you, and then you got to produce. And I want to throw it at you, and then by the time you throw a few things at them, they get the hang of it. They learn the lingo of the industry, and then they go off and they fly on their own. And that's the great thing, because now I've been to a few places where I went somewhere, paid ticket, and I'm like, there's no seats in here. And I paid a lot of money for my seat, and my seat is not up here. And it'd be one of my interns running the video or running doing the boom arm. They're like, oh, Jay, you need a seat? I'm like, oh, okay, hold on, wait. And send me a text. Oh, you can come sit up here, or we got your seat back here. Because those little seeds, when you can't get in the room, it's somebody help you get in the room. When you can't get that connection, somebody say, oh, I just mop their floor or something here. Let me just call them for you real quick. They my really good friend, and they call a friend. Like, it's those things is what get you in the room. Those relationships is what you building. Building is what helps you, and that's what has sustained my business and kept me going. Has been relationships, and like producing. And I'm not saying I'm the best photographer, but I try to make sure I communicate. I'm like, hey, I'm running late. Hey, I'm not gonna be there. Hey, your pictures may not be here today. I need an extra day or two. Whatever the situation, I'm communicating. And now I learned from one client years ago. She said, I need you to over communicate. When you think you told me enough, tell me more. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how that works. Oversaturate people with information and let them tell you to stop. That's the best way to do it. And that's what I found as a secret, because people love it. They're like, oh my God. I send, when you book with me, you get about 4 to 5 follow-up emails confirming your date. Like, hey, here's your date confirmation. Hey, you're a month out. Make sure you check on this. Hey, you're a week out. I just wanted to let you know. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's over communication, and they love it. And to me, that's something you don't have to do with me. You just give me the date, and I'm good. But for some people, they consider that attention to detail. They consider that heavy communication. And I learned that from one of my female clients, and that worked. That was a genius tip she ever gave me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot.
For sure, yeah. Love it. So starting to wrap up now, we're definitely going to have a part 2 one day, because we have so much in common. Mm-hmm. And I just love your attention to detail. I love your vision. I love the way you do business, and it's awesome. And I love that you keep God first as well, because we do that as well. So we're going to definitely have to have a part 2, because I have way more questions, but I ain't going to keep you all day. But one of the questions that we like to ask, wrapping it up, is what is one of the main takeaways that you will want some young entrepreneur to really get from listening to this podcast episode with you? Like, if you can just tell them one piece of information that has really helped you, what would that be?
Be persistent. I know it sounds like everybody said that, but knock again, send an email again, send an email again, send an email again, make a phone call. Do that. You'll stay in business, you'll stay around, because what happens is people stay, once you outlast everybody. I've been in this field for now a long time now, it seems like it, for a few years, actually 10 years as of this year. And when you outlast, when you stay, you outlast, because people will come up and people will go. People will come up and they like the next hot best thing or whatever. Then when you start looking over, trying to see what they're doing. But then if they're not consistent, boom, they was hot for 6 months or a year, then they going down. Hot for another 3 years and they going down. Staying consistent is how I stayed in the business and reap the rewards by staying out here. That's really the thing. I kept doing it when no one else, when other people quit, when other people went back to work, when other people said, I'm going to switch careers, I stayed doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely. I love it.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. And because you're on the Abundant Culture podcast, we have to ask every single guest this question, and it is, how do you spread abundance, either in your business or in your personal life?
I spread abundance via social media. I get on social media and I share good things about what's going on today. I share about what's happening in my life. I share about Chicago because I love this city. I tour them around Chicago. I spread abundance. I spread joy and life through my smile. That's the biggest thing that I think is my selling point, is my smile and me just giving joy to everybody. So I do that through social media, and it goes to thousands of people.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, we definitely saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate it because you've definitely been a joy for us.
Absolutely.
On this podcast.
So for someone that's like, man, Jason is so cool, I just really want to have a conversation with him. Maybe they're like, oh, I really do want to become a client, so I need to book a call. Or maybe they want that tour around Chicago. How do they get into contact with you?
Well, they won't get a tour around Chicago, but if they want to book a shoot or learn more information about me, they can reach me at jasonmccoyphotography.com. That's www.jasonmccoy photography.com. And that is the same handle for Instagram and anywhere else online, Jason McCoy Photography. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for coming onto the podcast. This was truly a great episode.
Yeah, we loved it.
It was great questions and great feedback. I love like the conversations you guys pulled out of me, and then just even being able to have the back and forth banter with you. It's like I've known y'all for years, even though it's my first time meeting y'all.
I
know, right? I felt the same way.
Look, see, after this dinner, like, where are we going out to eat at tonight? See, but y'all not in Chicago. See, in Chicago, we got to go get some dinner somewhere downtown. See, but,
we close though. We always in Chicago. So.
Okay, when y'all come in, let me know so we can schedule a place. We got to go to maybe go to Morton's, or we got to go to I got all type of food places. That's the one thing I told you I do really well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna have to link up after this.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So that's all we have for today, folks. I hope you got as much value out of this as we did. Keep in mind, the only way we can improve is through constructive feedback. So remember to rate and review this episode. Also, you are not the only person that needs to know this super valuable information. So be sure to subscribe and share as well. Stay tuned for the next episode. And remember to always spread abundance. Peace.